Okay, good morning and welcome to Ian to Lean on Shulchan Aruch Yomi. Today we're doing Hilchos Tefillah Siman Kuf Yudal at 114. It's a siman that is really relevant to the times right now. On Shemini Atzeres, we're going to start saying Masha Baruch Mer Geshem, and these halachas here talk about saying, if you didn't say Masha Baruch Mer Geshem, or the last halacha says that. Now in Eretz Yisrael you don't have this problem because people say Moed Atal and Moed Atal B'di'evid. You say Moed Atal the entire summer. You're saying Moed Atal, so therefore, even if you're not sure if you said Moed Geshem, you said Moed Atal. Moed Atal B'di'evid is good enough to sustain the crops even without the Geshem, so it's good enough. But if you're in America and you don't say Moed Atal, and you're not sure if you say Mashra Geshem after Shmini Atzeres, so you have to go back unless you said it 90 times on Shmini Atzeres, which is on Simchas Torah. A lot of congregations do. They sing this song, say 90 times. So they don't have to go back and repeat it if they're not sure, because the chazak is, the assumption is, until 30 days, shloshim yom, a person normally says whatever he said. Once you change something for 30 days, then it's considered that your vocabulary gets accustomed to a new vocabulary. There's a new common habituation to your vocabulary habituates to a new habit after 30 days. So the Ramaram Rudenberg rules based on a Gemara in Baba Kama on Daf Chav Daled, where the Gemara talks about a Shar Hamuad. A Shar Hamuad is an ox which gores, right? If it gores one time, it's considered a short tam. You only pay Chatzi Nezek. Once it gores three times, or four times, according to Rava, so then you have to pay Nezek Shalom. You have to pay the entire value of the damage. So there's differences in halacha within a tam and a muad. So the Gemara says there's a certain amount of time that has to gore three times, not three times in 20 years. All right, I forgot the certain amount of time, but Reb Meir says kol shekain if it's richek nichosa, it's kol shekain kirev nichosa, right? If it does three gorings in one day, right? Of course, that's considered shar muad, right? Kol shekain certainly is considered a shar muad in that case. So similar to Ramara Rurenberg in Baba Kama, I think he says based on that halacha we can learn the same thing over here, that if you say Masha Rohu Geshem on Shmini Atzeres 90 times, that's Kol Shekain. Kol Shekain, if in 30 days you say 3 Shemona Esrei a day 90 times, you said Masha Rohu Geshem, that we assume that your language is accustomed to say Masha Rohu Geshem when you say Shemona Esrei. If you don't remember, so too if you say 90 times on Shmini Atzeres, even the next day you're not sure, you already said 90 times, your language has been accustomed to saying Masha Rohu Geshem. So, is that such a good comparison or not? The reason to make a distinction between the two is that by a shore, we don't know it's a tam or a muad. A shore, certain oxen are, tame and certain are dangerous. So there was no preceding chazaka. Over here, right, you've been saying up until Sukkot, you've been saying Masha up until you say Masha Geshem the entire winter. And after the winter, right after Pesach, so you're not saying Masha Baruch Hu Geshem anymore. Similar, I was talking about before Masha Baruch Hu Geshem. I meant to say not say Masha Baruch Hu Geshem. For after Sukkot, right, you're not supposed to say Masha Baruch. You're supposed to say Masha Baruch Hu Geshem, right? You're accustomed to not saying it. So do we assume that you said it or not? And similarly, after Pesach, you've been saying Masha Baruch Hu Geshem. You're not supposed to say it after Pesach. Do we assume you said it or not? So in both those cases, right, you have a previous habituation, right? During the summer, you weren't saying Masha Baruch Hu Geshem. So after the summer, we have a chazak, we have an assumption that you're not going to say it for 30 days. The Gemara says after 30 days, we assume you change that period of time, changed your habituation. But before 30 days, it doesn't change the habituation. I think, in fact, 30 days is a time that has to be 3 gorings in 30 days. I think that's what it's based on. So we assume that's the habituation, 30 days. However, when it comes to Shor Tam and Shor Muad, there was no previous chazaka, there's no previous assumption. We don't know it's Shor Tam and Shor Muad. So therefore, there's more reason to say, once it gores 3 times, it changes its habituation. It's considered a Shor Muad. There's no previous chazaka, but here there is a previous chazaka. During the summer, you weren't saying Masha Rosh Geshem. So therefore, we can assume, we go with the chazaka, the previous chazaka, that you didn't say Masha Rosh Geshem. And during the winter, you do say Masha Rosh Geshem, but after Pesach, we're going to assume you probably still said Masha Roch Geshem, which is Simon Klal, which you shouldn't be saying. You have to go back to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. So therefore, you had a Brazil and Chazaka. So whatever, you can't compare the two cases exactly because here you have to be oker from the Chazaka. You have to remove the Chazaka. So maybe only a period of 30 days, right, would remove the Chazaka. But to say it 90 days on one day would not remove the Chazaka. Now, the only hesitation with saying that is that the Gemara makes a kol shekain, right? The Gemara is if 30 days is good enough over there, so too 3 times in one day would be the same thing. It's kol shekain. So kol shekain, it works. So if 30 days works over here, kol shekain would also work over here. But I think there's reason to say that just you can't align the two things. The Gemara doesn't make this comparison. The Rishonim, Maram Runabar makes the comparison. Is that just we're talking about two totally different things. We're talking about, like I said before, when it's short, we don't know if it's a Tam or Muad. So, right, if it gores 3 times in 30 days, so we assume it's a Muad. And if it gores 3 times in one day, Kol Shekain, it's a Muad. Because now we're establishing Hazaka, it's obviously, a very wild animal. We're trying to figure out if it's a wild animal or not a wild animal. So in one day, it's a wild animal. However, over here, we're trying to remove a previous chazaka over here, maybe you need a period of 30 days to remove that chazaka. The period of 30 days, saying it, in my opinion, it's stronger the opposite, right? They were trying to figure out is it a wild animal. So yeah, if it gores 3 times in one day, that's more wild than 3 times in 30 days. Here we're trying to change your habituation. It's more likely that your habit will change after 30 days than your habit will change if you say 90 times in one day, because you're not accustomed to saying it. I don't think it's the same. It's about habituation, removing a habituation in your language versus determining whether an ox is a dangerous ox or not. So I don't know if you can rely on this kula or not. Again, usually I come out lakula, but here it actually would be a chumrah over here. But again, I'm not a rabbi, so you take it for what it's worth. I hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.